Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $eJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is healed, whole, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast on our YouTube channel and all of your podcast listening platforms. Also, make sure you check out our partner podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussion podcast, which is also on our same YouTube channel. If you go there to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast on YouTube, then you also get the playlist for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast also. And also on your podcast listening platforms, you can go there and listen to that podcast. Also, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you got to stay until the end of the podcast in order to get that information. But you can win $100 from the podcast. Last but not least, or should I say the next, is make sure you guys are supporting us with our products. We are a self-sustained podcast, and therefore the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you products to purchase that help support us. So we have our ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com, and we also have our inspirational t-shirt line at deal2heal tees.com, where you can go and get your inspirational shirts and also our ebook. So make sure you guys are checking that out in order to support us in that way. So Today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Jonathan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, all right. First of all, let me say thank you for being on. Thank you for taking our time to be here with me and my guest. Because you could have been doing anything else, but you're here with us, so we definitely appreciate it, and we want you to know that up front. So that being said, do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners, and let them know or let us know who you are and what it is that you do.
My name is Jonathan Mayo from North Carolina. I am a coach. I am an emotional growth coach. So what I do is help men and women, but mainly men, to navigate through their emotions, mental health, advocate for them. I know they go through different things, but I'm here to help, coach, guide, lead, whatever you need me to do to get you where you need to be at. That's we got this. We got this.
Right, right, right. So Jonathan, let's go back because I know, as I always say, there's a story before the story, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, what was, should I say, first of all, who was Jonathan originally? Like in your earlier ages, earlier stages, who was Jonathan, and then what was that pivotal moment that happened for you personally that made you be like, you know what, I need to step into this. Uh, Other arena where now I'm using my experience to help other people to even deal with their emotions and things of that nature.
That's a good question. For me, where it started was being in relationships, certain relationships, being dealing with myself as a man, trying to grow up in society, trying to navigate through that without, a father, a single mother, all the statistics that come with, you know, life. So I came to a pivotal moment in my relationship where I completely lost myself in everything that I was doing, even in manhood and just trying to navigate through it. And it's like I got to do something different because I felt like I was on this hamster wheel, kept going, getting off, kept going and kept going and getting on this hamster wheel. And it's like, Jonathan, you got to do something different. I had a tough talk with myself, and I started like really focusing on. And then I read a book. I read a book by Eric Thomas called "You." Then started reading the Word, and then I started going to therapy, and that really helped me to start navigating through everything and getting on the right path for what I need to do. And that's where I am today.
All right, all right, and I definitely can identify with a couple of things that you said. Definitely, I am a follower of Eric Thomas. He's actually kind of the reason that kind of helped me even get to this space.
Mhm.
Because I didn't even know who he was a couple years ago.
Right.
But going through a divorce, I was going through a divorce at the time, and so I actually went to YouTube to look up
Yeah.
motivational videos and came across Eric Thomas, which
Yeah.
led from from of course getting motivation from him,
Yeah.
and even getting into looking into speaking myself to be becoming a speaker, which I was already doing it in the church settings, as
Yeah.
a minister and everything. So I was already speaking in that sense of it, but to be able to go to schools and actually make a career out of it, outside of the religious realm, kind of led me that way, which actually kind of also led me to, to the podcast space. And
Right.
so I definitely owe a lot of big ups to Eric Thomas, and definitely you book was one of his books. But another thing that you mentioned was therapy, and I'm definitely a big component of therapy myself. I often talk about my experience of not necessarily going through therapy, but doing group therapy, which was a group
Right.
bereavement group that I was in after my mom passed away, and knowing how much that helped me, I definitely am a big component of either group therapy, personal therapy, whatever you have to do to get into that. But I think that in our culture,
Yeah.
and even in our communities, especially, therapy is kind of looked at in a negative sense, and then it's even harder to get men to start going to
Pulling
therapy.
teeth.
Even when
Pulling
you
teeth.
yeah, so when you're talking to men, even suggesting it, or being open about your experience of going to therapy, how was your experience, and how are you able to relate that to other men that they may be open to it?
I would say that's a very good question. I think for me, you gotta want it. You gotta want to do the work. You gotta want to be ready for it. You can't just talk about it. You gotta be about it at the end of the day, because you gotta want that change, because it is a lot of work, because you really have to go back and to your trauma points. You have to go back in your past. I mean, in my sessions, I was crying. I was literally crying. I was hurt. I was sad. I had all the emotions: mad, angry, sad, whatever emotion that can come through, frustrated, to the point like, okay, this hurts, even though I'm going through what I'm going through, but I know I needed to get help, so I had to walk through it. So I remember in a session, I was going through therapy. I had a session with my counselor. He was just saying like, I after we got to know each other for a couple of days or whatever, I mean a couple of weeks of going to therapy or whatever, and he was just basically saying like, your whole life you kind of felt like you wasn't enough. I said, it hit me right in my heart. I was like, you are so right. So when it hit me, I said, Jonathan, you are enough. So I started saying that you are enough, you are enough. And I started speaking life to myself. And that's how my company got born, because it was like, I don't remember as a child getting spoke life over me. Not even my dad, not even my mom. They never spoke life over me at all. So it's like, okay, you got to speak life back into you. You got to get the breath back into you. So I started doing affirmations. I started really honing in into that and really becoming the person I need to be and want to be. So that's where that came from. And of course, reading and resources, and just continue to go to therapy and talk these things out and be open, honest, and real. That's the main thing. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be real with yourself, and you got to be open to change. So when I started saying I'm enough, it sparked from there, and I just say it every day and continue to say it and continue to add things into my arsenal. So,
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about that because one of the things, so you also was a guest on our other partner podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And when we started talking about affirmations of, giving affirmations to our daughters, we began to talk about also giving the affirmations to men and how important that was, for men to even speak life, into themselves and things
yeah.
of that nature. So share a little bit of that with us, of just having that space to not only, speak life unto your child, but for men to be able to say, hey brother, you matter. You know what I'm saying? You're important too. Even having those discussions with other men. Tell us a little bit about that.
So what I want to say is, when you're speaking of your life and you start speaking life instead of, really, you know who you're talking to. You're talking to that little boy inside of you. You're talking to him and telling him that you are enough, you're good enough, you're great, you have gifts inside of you, you're beautiful, you're handsome, you're kind. All these things that you have inside of you, you have certain things inside of you that's going to get activated when you start speaking to yourself. So you're going to become who you're supposed to be, and you start to attract what you want to become. But you have to speak it first. It's just like in the Bible, God spoke, there is light, and it came. So that's the same thing with us. When we say, I want to become a man of God. I want to become rich. I want to come be the best dad. I want to become the best husband. Whatever that looks like, you speak it, it's going to become, because you're going to start to attract it, and you just start to become it. So I remember one point when I was like, I was going after my divorce. I was like, I need to forgive her. So I said, Lord, help me to become forgiving. And every day I would say, let me be forgiving, become forgiving, become forgiving. And it was an affirmation I kept saying, become forgiving. And actually, he brought the test to me. So I had to forgive in certain areas. And it was like, it came so natural because I kept saying it to myself and I believed it. My subconscious mind was like, okay, you forgiven, like you. And I literally, like, when I mean I was forgiven, it's just like it was easy. I said, ooh, is that easy like that? So it's just, and then of course reading the word and stuff like on forgiveness and definitions and stuff like that. But when I just started saying it and speaking it every day over my life, I just became forgiven automatically. It was on purpose. It was like, oh, okay, and it was just easy to do. It wasn't like I had to strain or I had to argue through it. It's just like, okay, I'm forgiven. Like I just forgive her. Like it's okay. And on the other side, they might be upset and mad, but they're like, "Who is this new person?" I just showed up like that. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, especially talking about divorce and then forgiveness, even in the midst of divorce. One of the things that I talk about often is my relationship with my ex-wife, and who we've been friends since we were in kindergarten.
right,
And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did was to remain to keep our friendship intact even after the divorce. Because it's like, all right, we have too much time that we've known each other, too many ways and where our families are connected. Whether it be growing up together as friends, growing up in the church together, our church family, our parents were good friends. My mom and her mom was good friends. So it's like there's a lot of other things that's connected to this marriage outside of just us. And so even though we had came to the part where you know it was necessary to end the marriage itself, we didn't want to end all the other relationships that we have and even our friendship. So
Right.
we were able to navigate through that. But I think forgiveness definitely is a big part of that. To
Yes.
be able to forgive, because I think that just divorce within itself, is a whole ball game. And learning how to navigate that space, successfully without tearing down everything that you built,
Right.
together and in process of it. And so even with that, man, I think about, you know, being in those spaces. And when we start talking about forgiveness and mental health, even with the family, how important it is to even, you know, have some time where you are being able to go through therapy with your family members. Because I remember my very first guest on not this podcast, but on the Girl Dad Discussions
Mhm. Mhm.
podcast. His name is Turan, and at the time when we recorded his daughter, right, which is his very first child, she was only like 2 or 3 months when I had him on the show. So he was my very first guest. And one of the things that he said that he did was him and his wife decided they would both go to therapy, so that they would be healed and they wouldn't pass any more uh,
Right.
trauma from themselves down to
Mhm.
to their to their daughter. And so even in your space, how has therapy even played a part in your family dynamics, even after the divorce or even before, but just in your family dynamics to kind of how have you been able to kind of navigate that space?
Yeah, and I definitely one of the biggest things I started. I when I did the forgiveness part after I forgave her, I had to forgive myself for whatever happened and all part I played. But then when I started to do that part and looking to the little boy, started healing him, then now I saw how it affected my relationship, affected my daughter. So I look back like, man, God, like it really affected her at the age she's at. I mean, she wasn't really like acting out or anything, but I knew it affected her. So she's like, "Why daddy not here?" Or why mommy remarried? Why this other man is around?" And just trying to navigate in her little mind at 7, 8 years old. So it can be a lot for her because I remember being that age when my mom and them split. I'm like, "Daddy not here no more." Like it's just us, and I was navigating through my head, but I didn't. She didn't um, take me to therapy or anything. Just kind of winged it. But now I got to do it differently because I don't want it to keep having this pattern in
Right.
the family or on my daughter. So it's helped me after I figured out like, okay, I'm healing. I'm getting myself right. So now I started my I put my daughter in therapy. So me and her started going well, I'll go with her to therapy. So while I'll be in therapy, it helps me out too. Because in some
Right.
cases, it's healing the little boy inside me too. Because I'm like, certain things that they talking about or they're saying, of course, it's play therapy, of course. But I'm down there with her and we're talking and she's opening up and saying things that's what's on her mind. And when she's saying it, I'm healing at the same time too. I was like, that feels so good to see like certain things that she does or her patterns, like where she got it from me or her mom, but also like I remember a point when she was trying to open something and automatically I had started to like help her. And I was like in my head I'm like, why did I do that? And then I had a pivotal moment was like I do that because I'm always trying to save somebody because nobody didn't save me, save the little boy inside of me. So it was
Mhm.
like I automatically don't want her to go through anything. So even it came up in relationships, like when I get with a woman, it's like she can be doing whatever. I'm up here trying to save her, and it's like she don't need to be saved. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was like one of them things. So that's what I just learned and just navigating through helping my daughter right now. I want to be the healed man for her with the emotional. When she do pick up or choose to get married or be in a relationship, she say, "My dad set a good example," and that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, I think that's important that we look at our children, not just as children, but as smaller people, even if you want to say it like that, because they're not going to stay children forever,
Oh,
and so you do want to try to help them to heal, even at them young ages, to be able to heal and be able to mentally deal with some of the things and challenges that they deal with. Because, even we talking about divorce, we often think about as the adults in of a divorce, we make all the decisions. You know what I
hmm,
mean? So we're okay with splitting up. We are okay with going our separate ways and this and that, and those are the decisions that we made. But our children don't have a say so in those decisions. You know what I mean? Our
yep,
children don't have a say so of, should y'all stay together, or if you part, what's going to happen. So their emotions a lot of times is not taken into consideration. And I
yeah,
have to even admit, even going through my divorce, that wasn't on my mind at that time, necessarily thinking about how the divorce would affect the children. Luckily at this point, as we kind of work through it, that it we still have a nice bond with our family, with the children and all of that. But I don't think that a lot of times as adults, we don't take our children's
incorporation.
yeah, we don't take them in consideration how they feel about what they're dealing with, and even on not even just how they feel about it, but how it's affecting them. Because we thinking, as adults, we just move how we move, and they
Right,
just gotta kind of gotta go wherever we lead them. But I think
right,
that it's important that, like you said, you went to therapy with your daughter, even if that's an idea for some parents, and even if you don't go to therapy, definitely start talking to your children about, the things that they're dealing with, and even the things that the situations that you as a parent maybe put them in, where they don't have any say so over it, but they still have feelings about it. But
right.
I think it's important for us to start having those conversations and to be able to talk about that. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching program, because you mentioned it at the beginning. With helping people even get to the good mental space, emotional space. So tell us a little bit about that.
With my Speak Life program, it's more of me help coaching you through and navigating through your emotions. Because I'm 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 gonna say this. Sometimes on this social media or online, and they got so much stuff out here of like what a
Right.
man should be, how he should be, and how he should show up. And I want at the end of the day, you show up as your authentic self. What does that look like for you? Don't worry about society. Don't worry about what everybody else think. What, because once you become you, the other things are going to attract, like the good things. So my process is more of it's kind of like we're at the starting line. All you got to do is just get in position to ready to run the race, to run the marathon. I'm here to coach you along the way. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And that's the same thing. If a prime example, if we're in while you're running the race, I'm beside you, I'm running with you, I'm talking with you, and coach you along the way. Affirmations and different things. But my main thing is driving in the car of life. So you're driving in the driver's seat. I'm the passenger. So sometimes we're driving on our destination, and sometimes it might be foggy. It might be something in the road. I'm the side view mirrors. I'm telling you, okay, it's a rock in the road, something in the stick in the road. We're still on this journey. I'm not going to take the wheel. You're in control. You got the tools in your head. You got your mind straight. You know your destination, where you're trying to go. I'm just here to coach you along the way, help you along the way. Because I'm in the ride with you. Because sometimes um, we don't we go through life just knowing that you're not alone. You're not doing it by yourself. Because sometimes, especially after divorce, separation, then we go in this deep dark place because you start getting anxiety, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, because you feel like you're by yourself or you're alone. You feel like everybody's against you, and the closest people that you think supposed to be, they're not there, and they don't understand. And that my quote is, heal men. That's the only way it's going to happen. And that's the only way by talking to another man that's been through it. So that's where the empathy come in place. That's where the understanding come in place. Like, man, bro, I've been there, I've done that, but let's do it. Let's look at it from a different perspective. But I'm here with you so hear me out. I'm here with you. I'm here to talk with you. I'm here to be empathetic and go through that part because sometimes we can come so rough and hard. Like you need to do this, you need that. No, you need to dial it back. What's your story, brother? Let's be friends first. Let's understand what's your backstory before I can give you some advice. But that's the way Jesus did it when he approached people. He didn't just go straight like, "You need God." He said, "How you doing today? You good? You straight? How you from 1 to 10? I'm feeling whatever." And we go into that, and now you breaking it down, and you can really vent. And I'm making sure I make a safe space for you to be able to land your feelings. So,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I want to do with this podcast, and not just this podcast, but the other podcasts also, is to definitely create safe space for men to be able to be vulnerable, to express themselves and talk about, their inner feelings and know that it's okay. And the only way that we're going to do that is by being those examples. So I'm very free about the things that I've been through, talking about it, talk about my divorce, my depression, my suicidal ideation, all those things that I've been through. I'm very open to talk about it because I want you to be open to talk about it. A lot of times we go through things because we feel like we're the only ones. And then as
yeah,
men, we have this facade that we're trying to hold on to, also about being strong and not being weak, and that whole mindset of that, which we got to break out of, you know what I
right.
mean? And so, so creating a safe space for men to be vulnerable, to be themselves, to open up, I think is very important in the things that we do, and being that those examples. So,
I
Jonathan,
would say, I'm gonna say this. We never. You gotta think about it. We never felt safe anyway. Three areas we never felt safe was society. We never felt safe. Then in relationships with our women, we never felt safe. And even down to the point as men, we never felt safe with each other. So there's three things against us anyway. So it's like, where can we go with? Where can uh, and, and not even say that church, like, and that's supposed to be a safe space. So there's certain places we feel that we supposed to go as men, but they never felt safe to us. And we supposed to in them spaces, we supposed to show up as how they want us to be, not how we want to show up how we need to be and we want to be. So,
yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's one of the reasons. Well, should I say, let me ask you, you know, what are some of the reasons that maybe why we don't feel safe in these spaces? I definitely know or believe that that stereotype of be strong and don't be weak, and don't cry and don't show emotion. I think that's probably one of the biggest hindrances to us in any space that we walk into, because we can't just be vulnerable and say, okay, I'm not feeling at ease in this space. But I wonder, just as I ask you, why do you think that may be some of the reason why we don't feel safe in some of these spaces?
the reason why we don't feel safe is because when we want to express ourselves, sometimes we might know how to do it, might not. But when we try to express ourselves, it's you want to tell me how I'm supposed to feel or how you made me feel. You cannot tell me the experience I had in the story. You can't tell me that. I know how I felt. If I felt sad in that story, you might not like the way I said it, or my tone, or how I went about doing it, or the way I acted in it. But it's still the way I felt. Don't dismiss my experience, or
Hmm.
or can you validate my experience and understand where I'm coming from? Because I have many situations when I'm like, you hurt my feelings in this. Like, prime example, I was at work and the guy he brought something to me. He dropped it on the floor like I'm a dog or something like that. But that's a whole other story. So I felt a certain type of way. But I went to talk to him. It was another guy. I went and talked to him and I said, bro, like I appreciate you, whatever. I said nice stuff to him, but he was a supervisor. So I went up to him and I said, yo, you did that. That hurt me. Like, why would you do that? If I did it to you, you would feel a certain type of way. This man to man, and basically all he told me was, I was just playing. That didn't feel safe for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So stuff like that it makes me like I don't want to be at work. But luckily, I'm mature now, so I'm just not gonna mess with you and things like that. I know how to move now, so I'm more mature now. But before, I'm fussing them out. I want to fight. I want to do all these other things. But I think when we try to express ourselves and say how we feel, it's like we get dismissed or put to the side. And then I I learned at an early age in first grade when my teacher, I was crying or whatever, I had a bad day or whatever, she put me to the side and just let me cry. So I learned in my head that men, you're not valuable, especially as a black man, you're not valuable. We're gonna put you to the side. Don't worry about it. You good. You alone. Don't show up. Shrink yourself. So that's what I learned at first grade, and it was like, okay, this is what manhood looks like, and certain things with my dad, he never showed up and different things like that. So we never had space to express ourselves without being penalized for how my heart feels or how I showed up. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that um, because of our the only it seems like in a lot of cases the way we're raised and even our circumstances in our communities is like the only acceptable emotion is anger, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, or to act out. And if you do it any other kind of way, it's not necessarily accepted,
Mhm.
again. So that's why I'm very vocal about creating safe space for men, because when I'm more vulnerable, and even like you said, to be able to have a conversation with another man and say, yo, this is how I felt, and actually express my feelings without anger, you know what I mean? And I think it's opened up a lot of doors for us to be able to have these conversations and to be vulnerable with, number one, with one another. And once we can create a safe space for each other, then as men, and once we go out of that safe space, we're able to start creating safe spaces, in different areas of our lives. And I think that's the only way that we're going to, change this predicament that we are in. But Jonathan, man, first of all, I want to say thank you for being on. Thank you for taking out your time to be here. I want you to have the last word. So I want you to leave us with a word of advice, word of affirmation, however you see fit, and also tell us where we can follow you and, keep up with you with your social media handles and things of that nature. So I'll let you think about that for a second. To my listeners, first of all, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Also, I want to make sure that you guys are keeping up with us. Make sure that you check out our websites. We got the dealhealfulfill.org. That's dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main company website, should I say, and have a lot of information on the things that I have going on as a podcaster, as a speaker. And also check us out at our inspirational teas, which is the number two, healteas.com, deal to healteas.com, where we have our motivational, or should I say inspirational teas t-shirt line there, and where you can, put some inspiration in your situation, wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. So forgive me for that. Yeah, so check out the Deal to Heal teas, and also the ebooks by ejames.com. We have some great books at ebooks by ejames.com. Our ebooks, we have um, um, Forgiving Me, the 4 steps to self-forgiveness. We have the 4 core, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father, as well as other ebooks. So make sure you go to ebooks by ejames.com and check out our ebooks. Again, deal to heal tees.com to check out our t-shirt line. But if you go to dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main website, you'll be able to find out everything about me, as well as the links to go straight to our t-shirt line and our ebooks. Also, speaking of forgiveness, which we've talked a lot about in this episode, I've been blessed to be a part of a organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have free virtual workshops every quarter of the year talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, who is it for, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of the world, and so we just talk about forgiveness, right? And learning to forgive and teaching how forgiveness affects us all in our everyday life. And so those workshops are free. So whenever you're hearing this podcast, either there's one that just finished or there's one coming up. So make sure that you guys check it out. Again, it's free. You can go to forgivenessmission.com, or you can go to Eventbrite and look up forgiveness workshop or forgiveness mission on Eventbrite to register for the next event. Last but not least, I told you guys that I would tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast. You can win $100 from the podcast by entering our super subscriber contest. And what does that mean? That means you must first subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to our podcast on Spotify. After you've done those three things, you text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is ongoing and is random, so at any time I can pull a name and you could be our next winner. And plus, once you're in, you're always in. You can always win. You don't never have to go re-up again. So once you have subscribed to all three of the podcast platforms, and then text that word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730, you can win that $100. So again, Mr. Jonathan, let me say again, I definitely appreciate you being on, taking out the time to be here with me and my listeners and to share your thoughts and expertise. We definitely appreciate you. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Okay, you can reach me on Facebook, Jonathan Mayo. My company, Speak Life to Me. I'm also same thing on Instagram. I got a YouTube channel called J Mayo Speaks. But what I want to leave today is my quote is that's been lately is life is good, but it only gets better. Again, life is good, but it only gets better because life is good, but all to do is just get better. Once you keep evolving, changing, and growing, and being who you're supposed to be and becoming who you're supposed to be, you're going to attract these things. And just continue doing what you're doing. And remember, you are enough. Every man, you are enough to be the best version of you because you owe it to yourself. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep growing. Don't change. Just keep evolving, changing for yourself, and keep being a better version of you because you are allowed to do that. I give you permission to do it. Like, I give you permission to do what you got to do. Be the best father, be the best husband, be the best at what you're supposed to do, what your purpose work or what you're called to do, because you're called to do that. God didn't put it on your shoulders for no reason. It's for you to do, not nobody else. And the question is, what if you don't show up? What if you don't show up? If you don't show up, who's that generation behind you that's looking for you? Because you are the leader. You are the leader of your tribe. You're the leader of the people. So the people that you're responsible for, that's your job. I'm not saying you can't have tough and down days, get the help you need, but you're the leader. You're supposed to be the best version of you. And I just want to say, you are enough, brother. You are enough. Trust me, you are enough to keep going, keep getting it, keep doing what you got to do because you are enough. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's grow.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. www.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.